Hey everyone, it's Tango Oscar Mike, and for Monday night ham radio antenna night, I'm doing some work on my antennas. This is a little box I put in, I don't know, 2 years ago. It's fed with 150 feet of LMR 400 from my house. I've got a little static lightning arrestor there, and I keep this MFJ switch box in there. It's not mounted, but it does stay in there. I'm just going through my antenna right now, and on 20 meters, my SWR is 1.6, which isn't too bad. And I don't want to change the length of my antenna because on 40 meters, it's 1.07, and I use 40 meters the most, so that's why, and it's probably wise because it's tuned so well. So I'm not going to mess with it. On 80 meters, it's 2-to-1, which isn't great, but I'm not going to mess with anything right now. I don't want to change anything. It's winterized. I got it all wrapped up for winter with electrical tape and the rubber amalgamizing tape. Yeah, it's saying my 80 meter antenna is too short, which is funny because the antenna wire has stretched quite a bit, so that's kind of unusual to see. But that's all. I just checked my vertical too, and my vertical is good as well. So this is just a MFJ 2-port antenna switch I've had for a while. It's worked fantastic. I actually left this out in the box one time hanging and forgot, and this box actually filled with water, and the antenna still worked great after I dried the box out and sprayed contact cleaner in there. I haven't had any trouble with it. So this little antenna switch has worked great for me. I'm not going to complain. So what I do is I put the antenna switch in here, slide the coax into these slots, tuck everything in. And this is it's a flimsy little box, but it does work. So let me take the camera off here and I'll show you. So here's the 49-to-1 end-fed box that I made with a club build. There's my feed line. There's a little thin ground line going down and being grounded in with some ground rods that are all connected here. My other antenna is up there in this little flat spot. We'll go up and take a look. But there's the LMR 400 that comes underground. There was extra, so I just coiled it up there. I don't know if that really is acting like a choke or anything, but I coiled it up there just because there was extra wire. And so that's my post. That's held in there with that foam stuff. Instead of concrete, you mix it up. I can't remember what it's called, but it's for setting posts. And since there's really not a lot of weight on this post, I just use that foam stuff. So it's a little chilly this morning here in PA. Actually, it's almost afternoon. I think the high today is supposed to be like 48 or something like that. So up here, this is going to be hard to see because it's buried with leaves, which is what you want. So this is a it's been called a bunch of different things. QST magazine, it was in QST magazine as a fountain antenna. I had already started building it when that article came out, and it was referred to as a fan vertical. So there's 3 lines going up into the trees. There's one for 10, one for 20, and one for 40. And they just go up into the trees. They're not touching the tree, but they just go up. They're just hanging vertically. They're not really long. Like I said, 10, 20, and 40. I have 26 radials buried, and I just used a ground connector from a fuse panel to connect all my grounds, and I dug them out of the leaves there. There's a little box in there just to split the coax apart. You don't even need that really. You could literally just split your coax and connect the wires for it. So this antenna you could build really cheap. This is just 14 gauge Home Depot wire that I've had for a while on my end fed. That's been up there for almost 3 years, and the plastic insulation is peeling off the wire, but the antenna is still working great, so I'm not worried about it. But I think I am going to buy some new good wire to use in this situation. But 26 vertical, 26 radials, each one about 16 feet long. But that's all. That's my antenna setup, and it's been working good for me. I make lots of contacts on it. I have another antenna coming. Another ham on my club is selling me a Titan DX antenna, which I'm probably going to put up here somewhere in my front yard. I do have a lot of property. I have just over 10 acres, but this little front section here is the highest part of my property. The rest of my property is down this hill and actually goes down into a valley. So everything else is down below the hillside, and I like to keep everything up here because then it makes it real easy to get above the house and everything else. So there's my little weather station, and my end fed goes up into the tree. Hopefully you can see the connection up there. There's a little pulley there so it can flex, and it goes over that way. That's probably 40 feet, 50 feet up. It's a little higher over on that end. I got that up over that tree with one of those slingshots that shoots the arborist weight up over a tree that I borrowed from another club member, and it worked really well. But I was going to buy one of those, but for as often as I would use it, I really don't think I'd use it that often. I do have some bigger trees in the back, but again, they're just barely above the house line because it's down in the valley. So like I said, I want to keep all my antennas up here. What I'd really love to do is to build a little ham shack out here to connect all my antennas. I did have another antenna back here in the woods, but the problem with being in the woods and using trees for antennas is you get stuff like this. That tree snapped off and came crashing down and took down the antenna that was in there. So I don't have that one up anymore. My goals for improving my station is to get a larger antenna switch box. I found I really like being able to switch between antennas. I would like to run a few more runs of LMR 400 out here. I'd like to put a VHF antenna out here and get it up as high as I can instead of having it on the house. Everything in my house is electric. I don't have any other utility other than electric because we live out here in the country. So, of course, I have a really big backup generator to keep everything running. The power goes out. But since everything's electric, even though nothing's really noisy, I don't have any one appliance that's causing a lot of noise. Just the noise in general when the furnace is running and some other appliances, it just brings my noise level up a little bit. I think I'm like at a S3, S4 sometimes. If it's a quiet day and nothing's really running, I have almost no noise at all. With my antenna out here, when I used to have antennas on my roof and in the house, my noise level was a lot worse. So my recommendation is to get your antenna away from your house. Run, if you have property, even if you just have a little property, just run some LMR 400 and get the antenna just a little bit away from the house. As you can see, this antenna runs pretty much parallel to the house, but being that distance away made such a big difference. It used to be going over to a tree that was over top of the house, and even that was a lot of noise. As soon as I moved it over to this other tree, my noise floor dropped. So the house is just noisy. Electronics are noisy. There's just no way you can get around it. When I walk around the house and check stuff, I get noise from my static from my TV, UPSs, everything else. But when I shut all the power off in the house, I still get a pretty quiet noise floor, but it's still not zero. So there are other things. There's some high tension power lines around us, but luckily my noise floor is a lot lower here than it is for anybody else. I would love to build a bigger antenna farm and put some more antennas down here, but like I said, it's down over the hill, and I'm concerned about how that would affect propagation. I do operate sometimes from down here in the back. When I'm setting up antennas in the backyard, I'm usually down in here, and luckily this faces west, so the hill is only blocking stations to the east. But I do notice it. I do notice if I sit down here, I make more contacts west than I do east. So that's why I haven't put another antenna down here just yet. So, and I don't want to run, 300 feet of LMR 400. That's just a big, that's not only is it very expensive, but it's a lot of loss. And stuff like Heliax and that other real high power stuff is a lot even more expensive. So I'm not ready to put up a tower just yet. I think I'm going to stick with what I have. I mean, I could probably put a tower up down here somewhere and be up above everything, but then you have to worry about climbing it and climbing the tower, or having a tip over tower, and that's a lot of money. And to be honest, I'm a ham on a budget. I don't spend a lot of money on my ham radio hobby compared to some other hobbies and stuff I have. So yeah, I just don't see myself investing in a big tower, but I could see doing a big loop of wire around, one of those 360-foot loops. And I keep thinking about doing that. So that's all. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a little long, but we'll see how things go in the future. I do think I'm going to replace the wire on this antenna with some good quality wire, since this end-fed is my primary antenna. I think I'm going to buy some wire and have it in the back, just store it, so if this antenna breaks I can replace it. Maybe some of that bare copper clad wire might be nice to run for this antenna, since it is my primary antenna. I do like the fan vertical, but if I get that Titan DX antenna set up, I think it'll replace that fan vertical. What's nice about both of these antennas is they're resonant, and you really don't need a tuner. A tuner helps protect your radio a little bit, but the antenna itself is already pretty much tuned the best I can get it. So with that, this is Tango Oscar Mike 73. Take care. Have a great night.
Tango Oscar Mike